everybody, this is Mike with On Point Preparedness. A lot happened yesterday. And when I mean a lot, I'm talking a lot from a perspective of biblical prophecy and end times timeline, from a perspective of the supposed Palestinian and Israel peace process, and from a war perspective regarding Iran. And it all stems from a single speech that was yesterday, January 22nd, by Vice President Pence, publicly talking to Israel about the establishment of the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem in 2019. This is significant, folks. There is just so much going on here, and I'm going to break it down for you one by one. For starters, I want you to take a look at this quote by Pence. He says, by finally, keyword here, finally recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital, the U.S. has chosen fact over fiction. By finally recognizing, meaning as if it had not been done so before. I know a couple YouTubers have covered this, but you may not know it. Back in 1995, our Congress, the U.S. Congress, had formally recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel via this Jerusalem Embassy Act of 1995. That is public law, and that is the first and formal acknowledgement by our government of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. So by Pence saying that we're finally doing this as if it's the first time, that is sort of an outright lie. A little bit about this act is that it cuts the State Department funds by 50% unless the Embassy of the United States is moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Now, any sitting U.S. president can put in a waiver every 6 months so that the State Department's funds do not get cut. And in fact, you've seen this ever since 1995. Every single sitting U.S. president has signed the waiver to postpone this, so our budgets have not been cut, including Trump. So immediately after Trump made this grand statement that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel and we're going to move our embassy, he even signed the waiver. So I think, as one YouTube author put it, we've gotten punked. And essentially that's sort of what we've done. I really believe this to be something, the sort of Hegelian dialectic, where they're really infuriating the region for a purpose so that they can cause or promote some type of solution. Now, secondly, about this speech, when President Trump first made his statements, it was almost like throwing gasoline on a fire regarding Middle East peace. It's like, how can you possibly have peace when you're making these type of statements which sort of demoralize the Palestinians? Well, if Trump threw gasoline on a fire, Pence threw a stick of dynamite on the thing. And you'll see why as you go through his actual speech. Before I go down here, I've highlighted a couple portions of it for you. I just want to show you some of the reactions by the Middle East community on this. So let's see here. Okay. Pence's hopes for Middle East trip likely to crash into reality on the ground. So going down into this article, I want to call attention to some statements from a spokesperson for Mahmoud Abbas, that is the president of Palestine. And so the spokesperson for him said, regarding the statements by Trump and Pence, he says, the situation is unbelievable, unattainable. The only way for the United States to regain status as a peace broker is for Washington to reverse its decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. He does not expect that to happen. So again, a spokesperson for Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian Authority here, saying that it's absolutely not possible. We're not giving in to any type of peace. And so when I covered this before, I said that this is all a farce. There will not be peace in the Middle East. And personally, I do not think this whole 7-year peace treaty as part of biblical prophecy is sound doctrine. I've covered that in my video, Shocking Revelation on the Prophetic Third Temple. I will put a link in the YouTube description box if you have not had a chance to watch that. But this will give you some profound insights as to why I'm thinking that this whole thing is a farce. It's absolutely false. Going on a little bit further, this really isn't any surprise, but Hamas, the terrorist organization Hamas, they've also said there is no justification to meet with Mike Pence at any level. Hamas is keen to foil all the American and Israeli schemes that target the Palestinian people's rights. So Hamas, as a proponent of a lot of terror, if there was to be any type of agreement on peace, you can guarantee that there's going to be all sorts of terrorist attacks to thwart any type of peace. There has never been peace in this region. There has always been enmity between two seeds, and it's just false. So anyways, going on in this speech here from Pence, you're not going to believe some of the things that he said. So for one, he starts off by saying, as Vice President of the United States, being afforded the privilege here in Jerusalem, the capital of the state of Israel. So he just leads right off the bat, digging that dagger in a little bit, saying that it is the capital of Israel. And just to make you all know, I'm not anti-Israel. I'm not saying that it isn't the capital of Israel. I do agree it is, but we're just talking about the politics of this. When he goes down here, check this out. Whew, this is quite the statement. We stand with Israel because your cause is our cause, your values are our values, and your fight is our fight. We stand with Israel because we believe in right over wrong, in good over evil, and in liberty over tyranny. Now, I want you to imagine here, you've got two sides to this thing. You've got supporters of Israel, and you've got supporters of Palestine and the Muslim world. And he has these statements here, this binomial statement saying that there is right and wrong, there is good and evil, and there's liberty over tyranny. And since we are standing with Israel, we are standing with the rightness, the goodness, and liberty versus Muslims and the Palestine Authority and the Palestinian people, which are wrong and evil and tyrannical. Whew. Do you think that these statements really promote peace? Or do you think that they could have been more politically appetizing? These folks, Pence and all these political leaders, if they were really seeking peace, and with how good they are and how sly their words are, you think that they could probably word this a little bit better. The truth is, they are trying to infuriate the region. This is order out of chaos, folks. This is Hegelian dialectic. It is so plain and simple. You do not say these things, especially when you've touted that you and your administration is the key administration to bring peace to the region, a peace that has never been seen before. Now, of course, statements like these are going to really invigorate hatred. And sure thing, while Pence was giving this speech, you had some folks there that represented Palestine, and there was a brawl right in the middle of this speech. Just absolutely incredible. But it doesn't end there, folks. There is more significance to this speech. So let me just scroll down a little bit more here. From a biblical timeline and prophecy point of view, look at these three highlights here. Pence says, "And this April, we will mark the day when the Jewish people answered that ancient question, can a country be born in a day? Can a nation be born in a moment? As the state of Israel celebrates the 70th anniversary of its birth. 70 years ago, the United States was proud to be the first nation in the world to recognize the state of Israel. But just last month, President Donald Trump made history. He righted a 70-year wrong." So again, you have the three 70s, 70, 70, 70, all in Pence's quoted speech here. Now, this is essentially the 70th anniversary of the state of Israel. There's actually a couple different significant milestones regarding the 50th, 60th, and 70th anniversary of key moments within the state of Israel. But as that applies to biblical prophecy, 70 is a very important number. I'm not going to go into why all that is. And I've been sort of holding off on making a video revisiting my prior timeline, but I think a lot of my subscribers have seen this. The video called Prophecy Uncovered, the worst year the world will endure. I talk about how the 7-year tribulation may in fact only be a 1-year great tribulation because of a delay that God would put in place. And actually that last 360-day Hebrew year would start in 2018. Specifically, and again, I am not dogmatic about dates. I think it's interesting to discuss these things, and I'm not talking about the rapture or the second coming of Christ. That is unbiblical that we should even search for that date. We should probably search for a season, but not a specific date. But particularly, I'm trying to look at the plans of the elite and see when Great Tribulation might come, when the SHTF might actually hit, because there's so many black swans that are ready to burst at any moment. But in this timeline, which starts on April 11, 2012, I'm not going to get into why that date is significant, but starting with that date, 6 360-day Hebrew years ends on March 11th, 2017. Interestingly enough, you also see the 70 here. March 11th is the 70th day of the Gregorian calendar. In that prior video where I was talking about this timeline, I found it interesting that the Russian presidential election in 2018 was also being held on March 11th, 2018. Just a little update on that. They have actually changed their timing. It actually went from Sunday, March 11th to the 18th. So I just want to make a correction right there. But this March 11th being the 70th day of the year, I think that's very interesting. And this date has had prior incidents. So the Fukushima disaster was on March 11th. And that was 2011, and this will be the 7-year anniversary. So this really repetition of sevens, the 70th day of the year, the 7th year anniversary of Fukushima, and all these statements in Pence's speech about 70, 70, 70, really emphasizing that period of time. Lots of people are talking about 2018 as the year things really start to go downhill. And we're just going to have to wait and see. Spring and fall are very tumultuous times. And so personally, again, not being dogmatic about any particular dates, but I am going to be watching very keenly to see if anything happens in March, specifically March 11th. So don't get your hopes up, but I do want you to really be cognizant of some things going on here. Now, Pence also says some more things in here. Let me just try and get this window up. Okay. Let me scroll a little bit down here. I found this to be a very interesting highlight. He said, today, Jews, Christians, and Muslims, more than half the population of the earth and nearly all the people of the Middle East, claim Abraham as their forefather in faith. Only steps from here in the old city of Jerusalem, we see the followers of these three great religions in constant contact with one another, and we can see faith come to life in new and renewed ways every day. Wow, Pence. Abrahamic faiths. I've done a video on this before. I don't have it pulled up for you, but I will put a link in the YouTube description. There are literal churches sprouting up all across the U.S. called the Tri-Faith Initiative. The Tri-Faith Initiative is made up of the three Abrahamic faith groups that have chosen to be in a relationship with one another. So claiming Abraham as their forefather, it's like, hey, you know what? We all worship the same God. Whether you're a Jew, whether you're a Muslim, whether you're a Christian. And here you have Pence. I'm not saying Pence isn't a true Christian. I mean, I've seen his testimony. It seems very heartfelt. I'm not one to question another brother or sister in Christ's salvation or basically that. I'm not going to question their salvation. I do sort of question their motives at times and things like that. But him really touching on this tri-faith, and we all have the same forefather, and we're all in constant contact with one another, and we all have the same faith. This is really having chills up my spine. I don't know about you. Maybe it's just me, but I think it'd be you too, because we see this one world religion being propagated, especially by Pope Francis and his more elaborate schemes to pull in all religions, not just the Abrahamic faiths, but Buddhism and Hinduism and pretty much everyone. But again, the tri-faith being the three major religions of the world, I am very surprised to see Pence talking in this fashion. Wow. Let me scroll up here to the top because there's a couple more things I do want to cover over here. So again, just, if you're going to be the first administration to claim peace in the Middle East, I talked about how they are just not going about it the right way, with just really saying some bastardizing comments, calling Palestinians and the Muslim world evil and things of that nature. But one of the other jabs that Pence does is towards Iran. So let's see here. Actually, where did that go? I may not even need the quote. But down in here, he talks about Iran nuclear disarmament. Maybe I have it highlighted down here. No, I don't. Okay, sorry about that. But anyways, in Pence's speech here, he starts talking to the Iranian people and says that that regime is very totalitarian and it's almost like a dictatorship, and that we, the United States of America, are your friends and we are looking to help you out here. Now, if you look at some of these statements here, check this out. The uprising in Iran, this is what revolution looks like. You can see that there's all sorts of riots. It's mostly from the poor and impoverished people of Iran. But the U.S. is, I'm sure they're behind this. I'm sure this is some type of covert CIA instigation where they are trying to create an uprising from within the country, because it wasn't so long ago that General Wesley Clark had this infamous speech back in 2007-ish, where he said that there were papers delivered to him saying that the U.S. was going to take out 7 countries in 5 years. Now, they haven't hit the 5-year mark, or they didn't get this all accomplished in 5 years. It's been quite longer than that. But the plan was there. The shadow government within the U.S. has been wanting to overturn and defeat Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran. They've pretty much done everything there, but Iran is the key, and that's what he says in his speech. It all ends with Iran. And again, in this speech, you can see here talking about the dangerous regime of Iran and talking about how they are a threat to Israel. He's again taking jabs at the Muslim world. And so just the politics of this thing just ooze deception. This is not about peace. This is about chaos. This is about bringing order out of chaos. They are doing something else here. And we know that this is somehow fulfilling biblical prophecy. We don't exactly know all the steps, but there are some major things going on here. So as I started this video, this is a false peace process. It's order out of chaos. You can see it so blatantly here, especially with this. This blew my mind, saying we stand with Israel because we believe in right over wrong, good over evil, and liberty over tyranny. I just don't see how that can give you a warm, fuzzy feeling if you're a Muslim or if you're the Palestinian people. And I've showed you how this 70-70-70 trend is coming up in Pence's speech and how that relates to my timeline. I'll put the links in the YouTube description for that. And the Iran issue. Wow. So I'm really interested in your thoughts on this. So I'll be monitoring the comments pretty closely. But this is Mike with On Point Preparedness. Hold on to your seats, folks, because 2018, it's going to be a big one.